Hello there, this is Rom coming back at you with yet another car video. Talk to players in the real world to get an idea about the game. And that's, of course, the game of man gets woman. You know, it's one thing to check out videos online, and I appreciate everybody supports me, but, you know, you see me in, 10 minutes on my couch, 20 minutes in my 20 to 30 minutes on in my car, but you don't know me. You don't hang out with me. Now, there's some people in Harford County, they might see me at the gym. I've met some people at the gym walking around, but you don't really know me. I would only call a tiny handful. I would use the friend label with a tiny handful. I'm going to tell you what. If you, especially a non-select, you having trouble with women, you want to learn how to really become that ladies' man. Hang out with that player. Be around that player. Talk with that player. Shoot, just hanging out with them. I remember one of the earliest things that really transformed me was being a roommate to a notorious player on my campus when I was in college. And there was a lot of changes there. Now, he didn't really give me any, he didn't sit down and talk about game or anything like that, but just being around him. Just being in those circles, because one of the problems that many non-select men who have trouble, they hang out with other guys who don't have trouble. As a mentor would say, select and non-select really are not in the same place at times. They don't really hang out with each other. They got two different mindsets. Like if you got a bunch of players, you can say something to a group of players. They can say stuff. They understand each other. But then you got a lot of guys out here, they ain't getting no parts of the pussy. They ain't getting nothing. They having trouble with women. And they will generally hang out with other guys who do that. I remember the first time I even saw something like that. This was way back in the 80s. Was set up with this young lady. Went over her house and there was a bunch of guys. This in the 80s now. Complaining about women, hanging out there. One was her brother and some other guys. I came to pick her up. And that's another story in itself. But anyway, oh man, y'all would be shocked at what I don't tell y'all. But anyway, that's the first time I've seen some guys, and they just had negative attitudes, negative thoughts, everything they were saying. That's because they didn't get any play. And when you around that type of people, like say you're around a bunch of dudes who ain't getting play, you ain't getting play yourself, they ain't helping you. It's like a older mentor said, he doesn't want to be the smartest person in the room. Whenever he goes in a room, he wants to be able to learn something. If you really want to learn something, yeah, it's one thing to watch these videos, and I've had quite a few guys who watched my videos and said it really helped them. Yeah, if that's what you got to do. But it's even better when you out in the real world, because then you can see what's up. You can see what's up, good and bad, with a player. Like you got a lot of guys online, and they feel like if a dude is a Chad or Tyrone, they don't get rejected. But if you actually talk with an actual player, they'll tell you when they've been rejected. They'll tell you when they didn't get a woman, no matter how many they get. And it's usually the women. In fact, in my book, Nice Guys and Players, that's why I said, are you a player who can get every woman except the one you want? Indeed, rest in peace, Alan Roger Curry, he said that was the main reason he bought the book. He bought the book because he could get every woman except the one he wanted. And I heard that from him. But see, that's in the real world. But see, he's probably hanging out with other players. when you hanging out with other men who are able to get play, who are able to do something, that's really helpful, because then you can see what's happening with them. You don't even have to ask them anything. You can just sit back and watch. Now, this ain't saying be just like them. Let me be clear on that. Let me be abundantly clear on that. You don't want to be like them. You still got to have your own game, but you can still, it's a mindset thing. It changes your mindset, because when you have a certain mindset, you can only deal with certain people. Like, I use myself for an example. I can't deal with broke. I can't be around dudes who ain't trying to do something with their lives. I can't be around some broke dudes long term. Everybody I'm around, whether they have a business or whether even if they working on a job, got to be somebody going someplace. That's who I got to be able to talk to and hang out around. They got to be successful, and they definitely have to be successful with women. Because I remember this one dude I knew. It was hard talking with him. He was a good dude, and we eventually got to the point we haven't spoken in years. And he wasn't a bad dude, but every time he would talk, it was always something negative. He always had something negative to say. And I was like, no, this ain't working. This ain't working. And got to the point, I was like, I even told him, I said, man, you can't be talking negative like that and still expect you're going to get a woman. But we were on two different pages. We were on two different pages on some other stuff too. So it was like, can't be that. Like, even if it's, like, let's go beyond women. A lot of guys want to make money. If you want to be that entrepreneurial man, you want to be that money-making man, you can't be around some other men who ain't doing that, or people who ain't doing that. Thanks, Hips. You can't be around that. You need to be around some people on the same page. A few weeks ago, I talked about, a week or so ago, I talked about being equally yoked. But even in situations, if I hear any little noise or something, I heard a little noise, but it was just how I had my keys in here. Anyway, you want to be around some people who are on the same page. They talking the same thing. Now, especially if you're talking about man gets woman, if you're around some guys and they not getting women, they having trouble, they always complaining about women, that's one of the worst things for you. Because even if you're around some guys, just around, you don't even have to ask them anything. You go around a bunch of guys getting some women or something like that, shoot, you can't do it. In fact, I'm gonna share a link to some pages in this book by this dude. It's called No More Mr. Nice Guy, and not the non-fiction book by that doctor, but this fiction book by this guy named C. Chet Robinson, I think his name was. Hadn't called his name in a while. And in the book, there was this guy who was having trouble getting women. So what he did, he invited all these guys, bunch of players, to this restaurant. He wanted to get some mentorship. And indeed, that's where I got that statement always talking about that, that homely guy who had the charisma of 10 men. I got it from him. So I'll put that link in the description box. But you got to learn. You can't be around if you're trying to get women. The worst thing is to be around some other guys who don't get women. Because trust me, because I've been every now and then, once in a blue moon, I'll be around somebody who's having some trouble. It really messes with your head. Now, when I really noticed this in college. Of course, I was around the infamous gym, but even in college, I noticed this when I was around, roommate to this player. That really helped me on many levels. because his mindset was totally different. His mindset was totally different because that's what it is. It's that energy. As a mentor would say, in fact, that mentor, I've called his name several times before, Master Yao Morris. He had said when he went from non-select to select, one of the things he did was start hanging around Goodbars. One of the things when you hanging around some guys who getting women, you pick up their habits. You pick up their habits. You see what works and don't work. You start looking at life differently. You start looking at the game differently. Because they really is, when I mentioned earlier about the two different groups really staying within their own group, select and non-select. Now, I've seen both. When you're around some non-select guys, they're going to look at stuff differently. They're going to complain more. They're going to have a more negative energy. Whereas the select guys, they're getting pussy on the regular. They're going to have a more positive energy. And that's very important on many levels. If you're a guy and you non-select, you ain't getting any play, find some way to do it. Like if you go to the gym, you say, well, okay, I'm going to at least start practicing body game. And you're around some guys, you start getting friendly, you start talking to them, some guys who not having trouble with women. You start going to noticing something. Or you might be on a job and you see what they're doing, and you see what they're doing, and you're not, you start picking up on their game, or start picking up on how they talking with women, how they interacting. That's going to start changing you. I knew one guy, he had a brother who was a player, had a father who was a player. And what he started doing, I even told him, I said, hey, you got it right there. In fact, I would tell him, I said, you already got it in you. You don't need to come to me for anything. And he realized that, and all he did was just pick up on what his family was playing. If you got a player in your family, what are they doing? Don't hate on them. Don't hate on them. Learn what they doing. Paying attention how they interact with women and everything. Don't be them exactly. Don't try to be them, but pick up on it. You can learn something. And how they talking, how they interacting, all of that. Very important. Because it's not going to help you if you being around some guys who are having trouble, because you're going to keep having trouble. You're going to pick up that energy. It's just like what I said a little bit ago about even money. You don't want to be around some broke dudes. Some people call it broke energy. You be around that broke energy, all of a sudden you got it. Like myself, I want to be around some guys doing some business, making some money. That's who I want to talk to. If you some broke dudes, you ain't in my circle. Even if you're working a 9 to 5, I want to be around that 9 to 5er who is moving up on his job, bringing in some money. And I don't care what it is. You want to be around that positive-minded person, no matter what. Because let me go a little metaphysic on you. You pick everybody. There's always a vibration. There's always an energy. If you're around some people who walking with their shoulders slumped and they like, woe is me, you might not pick up on it right away, but you'll pick up on it at some point if it's a group. No matter how positive you might be, no matter how strong you might be. Now, it would be perfect to say, hey, you coming in there all positive, they're going to pick up on it. But usually if it's a group, no. Now, if it's one individual, yeah, they might pick up on what you're presenting. But usually we don't get that case. And that's especially the case if you're one of these guys who's having trouble with women. Because I've noticed this even on different videos when, that big-legged woman's down there. But I've noticed this on some videos where somebody's going against something I'm saying, even though I'm getting co-signed. They should sit back and just learn. They should sit back and see, okay, what's he talking about? Big legs. So I had to go big legs. Big legs. There you go, Gary. Anyway, yeah, I like big legs. Big old butt dump. I just say the breastises for more comedic effect. As long as they got one, or a couple. But you gotta really think about it. You gotta really think about it. You want to learn from them. You want to be out. You want to see where they are, where they hanging out at, how they dressing. You want to see that it's right in front of you. Don't go by, like, I can throw some stuff out, but like I said, you go out there and go out in the streets and do it. I can throw out anything. I can fake anything. I can do whatever. Anybody can do that. Go out there and find out. Go out. Everything I talk about, go out there and see for yourself. That's the very important thing. You want to see for yourself what you can do and what somebody is doing. Somebody you can, and shoot, maybe depending on the person, you might be able to talk with them. And then, honestly, it's hard to talk with some players about it because sometimes stuff just comes natural to them. They don't think about it. They don't think about it at all. They just do what they do. But you can learn something just being around them, and especially if you're around, somehow you can get into a group of players or at least a group of men who are successful with women. It'll start to rub off on you. It will start to rub off on you. So it's very important to really do that. You know, I haven't called Popo in a while. Popo up here got somebody. I don't know why people be speeding and stuff. But anyway, I want y'all to think about that. I want y'all to really move forward with that. If you're a guy and you're not getting the women, stay off some of these channels that really enforce that. Stay off these channels that enforce that. Stay out of the comment sections that enforce that. You want to really be around, no matter what, guys who are doing well. Guys that you can see something from. And like I said, sometimes you might even be able to talk with them, and then maybe they can explain something and take it in, even if it goes against what you know. But think about it like this: what you've been doing ain't working anyway. What you have been doing has not worked for you. So why are you tripping? Why are you tripping? So that's the thing. That's the thing. You want to be around players, talk with them, be around them, hang out with them. What are they doing that you're not doing? What's their body language like? Everything. And learn something. Go from there. Oh, Lord. Yeah, I gotta go here. You know, it's gotta go to the post office. Oh, dang, that's a nice Corvette. Not Corvette. Corvette. He used to know this dude. His name wasn't Corvette, it was Corvette. Anyway. Ooh. I always run into that little curve there. Anyway, y'all. Just do what you gotta do, but be around some people who know something. Talk with them. Learn. That's how you really learn. You know, look, I'm gonna just be real with you. You're not gonna learn anything hanging around others who lose it. And just beyond women, like I mentioned for a third time, I'll mention even around money. You want to make some money, you want to be around some people making money. You want to be smarter, you need to be around some people who's smart too. Like this elder said, He don't want to be the smartest person in the room, but then he's thinking about learning. You want to learn. And to do all this, you do got to go out. Take your ass outside, okay? So anyway, that's all I have for today. Think on this, and I'll get back with y'all later. Peace and blessings.